当你在做简报的时候，你是希望台下的观众像在听结婚典礼致辞，还是像在听苹果发表会一样呢？教育性的简报可以很干，也可以非常的活。不同的是，前者的没有人记得，后者的让你像英雄。Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管双语沟通力的 podcast。我们希望带给大家最实用的沟通工具，包括了成功人士对全球市场的分享、职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。Hi, I'm Sherry, founder of Executive Plus. As a language trainer and certified coach, I've trained hundreds of managers from Fortune 500 companies such as Dior, Google, Deloitte, and Yahoo.
And I'm Nick, Director of Communication Strategy at Presentality.I've helped startups raise millions of US dollars in funding and train the executives of publicly listed companies to present on the global stage.
Welcome to the Executive Plus podcast,
where you can take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everyone, welcome back to Executive Plus podcast. We're going to continue our series on presentation and look back at the idea of how does an educational presentation work? When you're teaching other people how to do something, we all have an inclination to qualify why we're the person there to be teaching. But how you frame out this qualification and share the lessons that you have learned can change from someone just rolling their eyes at you or someone being deeply invested in what you have to say.
我相信大家很多都会在那种 presentation 或者是婚礼，我们常会碰到这种状况，就是台上的人讲得非常的开心，但是他讲的东西跟我们实在没有什么太大的关系。那这个时候就是你完全就是没有办法去记得他的讲的这些内容。那在做这种 education 的 presentation， 尤其是可以变得非常的蛮干的啦，老实说。尤其是比如说你要教人家怎么样利用新的一个系统，你通常会看到的就是一个人他把这个 PowerPoint slide 一张一张的放到这些，然后放上这些 screenshot， 然后就是 step by step 就是这样子作为他的 presentation。 但是其实这样子的东西呢，会让蛮多人很快的就是 lose their focus or losing their attention. So,We're going to teach you guys how to frame out these kind of presentations. So there are 3 easy steps.
The first step is just qualify yourself. Introduce yourself, your background, and your relevant experience. Now, you need to be really careful about this, and we'll talk about that in a second. The second step is present the problem and some insight or some unique angle you have on how that problem works.Or what's the underlying problem to the question that everyone has. The last step is show your way of overcoming the problem, or show your way or the thing that you're doing that solves this problem. 3 easy steps. Introduce, present the problem and insight, show how to overcome.
And Nick, you were telling me how actually the first step is always something that's the most challenging for most people, right?It's
the most challenging because it's the thing that seems like it should be very easy and straightforward, but most people get it wrong. They go on stage and their way of qualifying themselves is just simply, I have 10 years of experience doing this. I have received so many certifications or awards, so you should just trust me. But this is removing the idea that maybe someone in the audience has more experience than you, or even if they have less experience than you, they've done more newer iterations of what you do, whereas you've done it in a very traditional way. So rather than going up and just qualifying with numbers, there's 2 ways that you can qualify yourself. One is you can talk about the struggle that you've had with this problem and the steps you've taken to overcome it in your own lesson. So it's like, I used to teach students and I found that I was lecturing and no student would walk away remembering anything that I said. So I learned facilitation techniques, coaching techniques, and I completely changed my classroom from lecture to group. And that completely transforms my students' abilities, right? I go from this failure storytelling to a success, and I'm here to share those lessons with you. That's one way to qualify. The second way to qualify is actually to put yourself on the level of everyone there. You don't go, I'm an expert, you should listen to me. You go, in this room together, we all have experiences, and I'm going to share tips and techniques that have worked for me, and I hope that you will share your experiences back.
所以 Nick 刚刚讲了，其实有2种方式可以去跟大家讲你的经验，为什么你今天可以站在台上做这个 presentation。So for number 1, 你可以去分享一下你的自己的 struggle 跟你成功的故事，你怎么样从这个 struggle 学到什么东西，而今天你就来跟大家分享你这个的经验。那第二个也就是呢，你可以把自己的 level 放在跟大家一样，我们是用来一起分享的，我们不是上对下，而是大家是平起平坐的。So there's 2 different ways to do that. So step 2 is to present the problem and the insight that you actually have for this particular challenge, right?
Right. So if you shared your background experience, the struggle that you had, then you can start to talk in detail that insight that you've had that completely changed how you do things. If you're there to, say, teach a new system or a new program to the rest of your team, this is where you start to get into why those system features or why this new method of doing things overcomes all those struggles you had before.
Exactly. 像我们第3个也就是呢 to show kind of how you overcome the problem. 所以这个地方也就是我们要来真正分享我们的一个 knowledge 的部分 right?
Yeah, and then you start in to get to what's the process, how do you build it up?
I see. Alright, so really easy. 我们就有3个步骤做我们这样的 framing. So let's talk about what kind of language takeaway we could use for this particular presentation.
This is a great time to start using what we call signposting. And the idea behind signposting is because I'm talking about my own background into why I think this is a good system, into how to use the system, that information can become a big lump in someone's mind. So signposting helps me just go, okay, I'm moving from telling my own personal struggle, and I'm moving into why is this new system really important? And then why it's important, then I'm going to signpost and go, okay, here's where you need to start, taking notes on how to use the system.
I often tell my students that signposting phrases are kind of like you're hand-holding your students or your audience from point A to point B. You're helping them to guide them through. 就是你会引导他们从 point A 到 point B. 所以这个也就是 signposting phrases 这些的用法。So signposting phrases 其实有非常多种，你可以想象就是可能一刚开始你要做 introduction 的时候，你可以说 Oh, first of all, I'd like to tell you a couple of things about myself. 这就是我们的 signposting phrases. 所以当你要进入一个你真正的这个状况的时候，你就可以讲说 Okay, so let me give you a brief overview of what's been happening lately. 这也就叫做我们的 signposting phrases.And
then, if I want to transition from, again, the first part of qualifying myself into the second part of the problem, I may use a signposting phrase like, this leads me directly to the next part of my talk, which is, why am I standing here and what do I want to share with you?
那很简单的，当你已经讲完了一个部分，或者是你分享了一个很重要的 key takeaway 的时候呢，你就可以讲说 I'd like to sum up the key learnings from today's talk.So
if I was to take these signposting phrases and this framing, pieces of my presentation may sound like this. Let's say I'm introducing a new software system for the office. I may begin out and go, first of all, I'd like to tell you a couple of things about myself. My background in HR for the last 15 years has allowed me to see the transition from all paperwork to all digital.But moving from paperwork and digital, I ran into a lot of problems getting my team to shift. And then maybe after you've qualified yourself, you would just say, let me give you a brief overview of the current system that we're using. The issues with our original system that was all paperwork was it's effective because we have a record, but it's very inefficient when it comes to finding old records.Which leads me directly into the next part of my talk, why I'm standing here. to talk about our new digital HR system. And then after you've given all the features, you may just say, I'd like to sum up the key learnings and how you can start using this system today. And then go into my key points.
所以其实这个 presentation 它就是非常的 organized 也非常的干净，然后透过这些我们的 signposting phrases 再加上我们的非常清楚的 framing， 这个 presentation 一定会让对方听众或者是观众能够记忆深刻。
The next time that you're going to teach your team, your company, or the outside about a new system, we want you to think about this. How you qualify yourself, talk about your insight, and then talk about the solution. And don't forget that qualifying yourself is not just about being an expert. It's about an expert who has key lessons they can share. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
如果你喜欢我们的 podcast， 欢迎来追踪我们的主管英文 Executive Plus 的 Facebook。那也可以写信到我们的信箱yourcareerplus@gmail.com。